You know what I love about indie music?
What do you like about his stuff?
It grooves me. It soothes me. It takes me to another level. It makes me feel so good. Indie music. Welcome to the indie music show. Indie music. Everybody, it's the indie show. Indie music. Here we have the indie music show. Indie music. Here and now, the indie music show.
Welcome to the Indie Music Show with your hosts, Stephanie Jeannot and
Johnny J.
So Johnny, I came across this poster that says how to feel fulfilled as an artist. And it has a list of 8 different things. It says, never compare yourself to other artists. Know that your family is biased. Whether for or against, their views are skewed and do not represent an accurate reflection of your work in the world. Number 3, base your success on how your art has enriched your life. Number 4, constantly push yourself to expand and learn. Number 5, know the art can never be measured in dollars. Number 6, trust that when you are making the world more beautiful, there is always enough. Number 7, remember it is the job of the artist to create. And number 8, never expect your family to understand your art. And I found these to be really true. I mean, you know, when you compare yourself to other artists, it kind of, sometimes you look at their successes or their not so successes, and then you look at it and you look at yours, and it's like, you know, you don't know like the footsteps somebody took to get to where they are, you know?
That's a good point. I mean, it's kind of like apples to oranges and stuff, you know. For example, I might like, if I hear like on the radio a song, or if I'm listening to a record or whatever, the song itself, like, man, that's just such a good song, you know, oh man, why couldn't I write something that good? But then again, you have to take certain attributes into perspective. Like, okay, well, I'm primarily a bassist, so like, okay, yeah, I don't sing, or I don't play like the sax like that. You know, I think about, or just the bass players that I listen to. You know, I'm kind of like, you know, on my own. I've kind of created my own style throughout the years that I've played. So that's what I put out. That's my channel. That's my, you know, expression. That's what I paint. You know, so you're right. I can see how destructive that would be to compare yourself amongst any artist out there, whether it's, you know, some household name superstar or some indie artist that you're just seem to be a fanatic of or something like that. That's a pretty good point.
And it's so relative to this book I was reading called The War of Art. Now, you know, The Art of War is about...
The Art of War by Sun Tzu, that's right.
The Art of War is about having a mental game as a warrior and to pursue life, right? But the War of Art is also similar. Stephen Pressfield is the author. He said, the artist or entrepreneur committing himself to his calling has volunteered for hell, whether he knows it or not. He will be dining for the duration on a diet of isolation, rejection, self-doubt, despair, ridicule, contempt, and humiliation, because art is like war and war is like hell. And then, you know, like comparing yourself, like the self-doubting, you know, that's, right. That's what happens.
That's pretty deep. Now, I think you said that you've had this in your personal library for a while, and you're like, man.
No, actually, you know what it is? It's like I do traditional reading, regular books, and then I also do like Kindle books, and then I also do audiobooks. So like when I'm driving, a lot of times you'll find me listening to a book. So I was like, you know what? And the good thing about Audible is like once you finish, they let you like, it's like a library, you get to exchange. So you could give it back and get another book. So I came across The War of Art, and I was like, that sounds interesting. Such a good book. I'm telling you, like every artist should read it, because it's like, it's so good. It makes you really think about your artistry and all that you give and all that you do with it. And I really enjoyed it.
Would you say that not only would that pertain to musicians, but like just artists and like maybe authors and stuff too? Or
I think, all creative beings, because like we all produce, we all create. So like, we all have this thing within us that needs to be nurtured. And if sometimes if you don't nurture it, it causes like negative effects, like people being angry at the world and prison and having to go to psychiatrists because they don't know how to handle the rage they have. Well, we can just transmit it into songs. You know what I mean? Like,
put it in a creative channel. I've been trying to do that. Well, so I try to keep my that acoustic bass guitar I have. That's just like I was telling you. It's just been through heck everywhere. It's not really ever in its case. It's nothing. And or like now with like if you have GarageBand on your phone or some other digital instrumental app, I feel like, man, I'm kind of feeling this way. So like say if you're saying you're feeling angry or you're feeling something or you're feeling cryptic, like you could write something in a minor key or just get a sound out of it, and then later, you can do something constructive with it, arrange it into a song later or whatever. If I were an artist with like I have a friend in Minneapolis that does a really good like ebony pencil charcoal type drawings and sketch pads.
Okay.
And man, I know I don't know. I can just draw like stick figures. I'm nowhere as good as that. And then,
but you know what? Regardless of if you can paint a picture with your music. Like that's what you're doing. Like when you get on your bass, like in the song "Love Is the Matter," that's why it came out that way, because you sent me your bass line and I was just like, wow, like I can build on it because it painted a picture already, even without words. You know what I mean?
Well, I guess you're right. Yeah, I kind of gave it a canvas with, and you can, it has, I guess what you call auditory colors, and then like in the middle, that's where, where the lyricism could go for it, I kind of just painted like the heritage frame, I guess, and then you put your touch on it, for the focal point of it. And you're right, that came out pretty well, and I think it was at a well rhyme with reason, and I think that particular F sharp minor, groove definitely painted a picture for a song like that. And the irony is like when I sat at my bass, I was like, I think I was trying to come up with something different, but whatever was on my mind, I think that was the output of it, So,
wow.
Input, output. So, yeah. Sign of the times.
Yeah. So let's talk about the auditory colors of Rodney Joos. We have special guest Rodney Joos, everybody.
Rod, how you doing, buddy? I'm good. How are you guys? Pretty good, man.
Good.
Over there in Central Illinois today. How's the weather?
It is hot, but not as hot as it's been. We had a couple storms come through for the weekend, so it's a little bit cooler, so it's not quite as awful as it was.
That is good. So, Rod, man, okay, so you are an excellent percussionist, especially when it comes to the elements of groove and the fundamental elements of groove. And I know because, of course, I've had the pleasure of playing with you in a band down there in Central Illinois called the West McQueen Street Band. And speaking of, we, if anything, gave us or put us to the test of groove. It was some of the Motown songs, the Jamerson greats and things like that and stuff. So tell me, man, when did you? Why was it the drums, and what made you first want to pick up a pair of drumsticks and just start banging on stuff?
You know what? What drew me to music was, and here's my answer, which is really lame, but it's true. I don't know. I don't know. So why am I doing this? I do know. I was told when I was real little, my grandma had a ukulele, and I would make up songs. I just think this is really lame and cliche, I know. But when I was 6 years old, the Beatles were on Ed Sullivan, and I will never forget it. That whole period changed my world. And my sister, who was a few years older than me, we would go to the Heart of Illinois Fair, and they would always have like the Beach Boys, Power and Raiders. I got to see the association with the Who opening for them.
Oh,
so my sister would get to go to these concerts, but the drawback for her and her friends were they had to let me go with them. And I think they were okay with it when they realized I didn't really care what they did. I think like Dennis Wilson and Keith Moon, Donnelly and all those guys, I was just drawn to the drums.
Do you think were you drawn to Keith Moon playing the drums or knocking his drums everywhere?
Everything, all of it. Yeah, I think some of it is because I'm a real sissy, and to play the guitar or the bass is painful because you get those blisters and you got to push on the strings, and I'm just not man enough to do that. So it's just good to get the drums.
That's funny.
I know, man. I think a lot of people would think of the opposite, like, hey, look at that drummer back there, man. Pretty freaking,
I know.
He's just banging and stuff, and it's pretty strong. Yeah.
It's terrible. I just told the dirty secret that we didn't want anybody to know. I'm going to be kicked out of the drummer club now for sure.
Come on, seeing those Muppets on the drums was cool. Like you look at them playing them drums, you were like, oh my god, I want to play it too.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Well, think of Animal. Like exactly. You think like you can't go beyond Animal, man. He steals the show. He's pounding on it. He's like just a wrecking ball in the construction zone.
Absolutely.
So I have a question, Rodney. So if you were driving and you needed to hear something to just give you inspiration, what would be blasting out the car amps in your radio?
Oh, wow. So many songs. That's a great question.
Yeah, those are always the toughest.
Soulshine.
There
Soulshine?
you go. Soulshine. Yeah. Allman Brothers.
The Allman Brothers or Government Mule's version, any version. That's the song. Like for me, that's just I love everything about it.
I see. Those first four measures in. Of course, you probably and myself, when we perform that too, it kind of has it's like a jam groove, but I don't know. There's like so many subgenres that blended together.
Yes,
boy, it takes you to this different galactic dimension. That's how I can describe it, I guess.
And there's a really cool version with Government Mule with Derek Truck sitting in.
Yes.
Him and Warren do a really cool long intro. Mm-hmm. When the drums come in and the bass come in, and because the keyboards kind of build up, and then it's just perfect. And those lyrics, I just love the lyrics and the groove about it.
Yes.
There isn't anything about it I don't love.
I have to concur on that.
And the other side of the coin, real quick, the other thing I would put on is Little Richard's "Rip It Up" because that is just freaking perfect.
Well, I don't think anything. The perfectionist that Little Richard was too.
The push and pull with his ace notes on the piano and then Earl Palmer's swing on the drums. Oh, that's heaven on earth to me. That's just. I love that stuff.
That's true. What do you think though? If you say back then, if you were the drummer for Little Richard back then, and we're talking like earlier on before the Jimi Hendrix experience, when Jimi Hendrix was working as the working guitarist with Jimi Hendrix, or with Little Richard rather, stuff. And at that time, Jimmy's like a little timid. He's not doing much. Quote stage presence speaking.
No, he's learning. Yeah.
Right, he was adapting, and then so Little Richard, he's trying to light a fire under his, behind a little bit, but then he finally did it. He's playing. That's when he started for the first time playing behind his back, playing with his teeth and stuff. And meanwhile, Little Richard, he had his foot up on the piano, and he kind of stops. He's looking at Jimmy doing all this stuff. And then Jimmy's like, I finally did it. I broke, I finally, broke it. It's like, oh, you did, Jimmy, but you went above me. That's it. So what if you did, some Neil Peart drum solo, Little Richard getting your hopes up to do, this lead drum solo, and then all of a sudden he does something like that.
Well, but the other side of that coin is that's kind of a thing of, the student surpassing the master for a moment. And it was like, okay, now it's time for you to move on. So as mad as it may have been, it's kind of like, okay, Jimmy, it's time for you to move on and move to the Isley Brothers and then go do your own thing.
You're right. You're
Okay.
right. You're absolutely right.
Hopefully as a musician, Whereas a person, we're always growing and moving to that next step.
That's
and sometimes
true.
you got to get fired to get there. Believe me, I've been there.
I mean, that is a
Not
very
for being as good as Jimmy, but for...
Well, I think you're right. I mean, and you teach drums and stuff too. You know, I teach bass, and I think, you know, anyone that has a student and stuff too. It depends on each different student. Sometimes based on observation, what you're looking at what the student's doing, that can kind of teach you some things as while you're observing too. I've noticed with a couple advanced students that I have, you know.
Oh, you know what? My beginners, I learn more from my students. I shouldn't say this in public because people want their money back. I learn more from the students than they learn from me. I mean, that's the truth. Even the little beginner, when a beginner comes in, I have to go back and look. I have to rethink the instrument. And I have to remember, like, okay, what's it like to put the bass drum on 1 and 3, the snare on 2 and 4? To me, that's second nature. Right. To this kid, it's not.
I know.
Right?
So when you're the
adult
teacher,
beginner.
you also become the student because you now have to learn to teach, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you have to adapt to that. And every student learns differently, so you have to adapt to that person, which is great. Where it also can be kind of challenging, and hopefully you get it right sometimes.
And then again, it goes too with like how you finding the right channel, finding the right how to relate to the student. You know.
Yes.
And then you might find yourself you and the student have a lot in common musically, just not until you finally sit down, you know, in the practice room or whatever. Like, okay, so one thing I try to do before like we get into, you know, deep theory and stuff like that is like, okay, like, so what are some of your favorite bands? You know, they might say something like Led Zeppelin or Rage Against the Machine. I'm like, okay, well, here's something interesting. 2 of those songs are the same, but just in reverse. And like, so Bulls on Parade, that's an F sharp. You do the perfect eighth and then the root note back and forth. But let's say for an Immigrant Song by Led Zeppelin, it's the same song but reversed because you go with the root and then the perfect eighth. You know, there. And so you know, and then you know you find yourself and your student on the same page.
Oh yeah.
So definitely, yeah. That's. I'm sure you might encounter some similar stuff like that. So
yeah. What I get a lot of times, what's good for me being an old person is that my students come in and introduce me to stuff that I have absolutely no idea what they're listening to.
I'm just now getting to that.
And it's great. It is. I mean, you get introduced to so much great music, and you get, you know, they make you reconsider everything that you think about.
Well, I would like to take a pause and introduce our listeners to your music. So maybe we could let them hear a little bit of Strange Relationship, and we'll be right back.
We'll just... Yes, you know you will. I don't like winter. Seem to get a kick out of doing you cold. Oh, what the hell? You always surrender. What's this strange relationship that we're holding on to? Baby, I just can't stand to see you happy. More than that, I hate to see you sad. Honey, if you let me, I just might do something rash. What's this strange relationship, ship? Came and took your love, took your body, took the self-respect you never had, took you for a ride, yo baby, I'm sorry. The more you love me, sugar, the more it makes me bad. Really, I just can't stand to see you happy. More than that, I hate to see you sad. Honey, if you let me, I just might do something rash. What's this strange relationship, ship? Ooh, ship. What's this strange relationship, ship?
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of the Indie Music Show with your hosts, Stephanie Jeannot and
Johnny J.
So the tune you just heard was entitled Strange Relationship by Rodney Joos. So Rodney, what's your story, Morning Glory? Tell us about that song.
That's actually a Prince tune.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And we're not a band, we're called a club, but we do some cover material, and we do very little cover material, and when we do it, we just kind of do it our own way. And Brody, the main songwriter, just happened, and we all really love Prince, but Brody's a really big Prince song, and just kind of got brought in, just like John.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of hard. Be here right here is my Prince Peace Love symbol I got from Paisley Park, and by the way, Paisley Park opened the museum again, which is good. So they're
good.
Okay. But I've always admired that. Like I listened to it, I'm like, man, this is a very interesting arrangement. And Prince was, I mean, I think he covered just about every genre you can think of and every subgenre. And if you heard something that is a genre that you have not heard of before, darn well it's in that vault, just waiting to come out. So that, I mean, that arrangement was just. Yeah, it was a different perspective on it too. I like the approach.
Thanks.
It has its own coat of funk on it and its own coat of folk on it, and it definitely. So what was the process on that?
Well,
when you guys are arranging?
Well, our situation's a little different because we've got it's an acoustic guitar that's plugged in for an electric. We've got a Telecaster bass guitar and then drum set. Although for Corona, we've been outside with me using hand percussion on a deck so we could socially distance. But we take the songs that if we're doing a cover, we just kind of take the basic structure and then we just play. And it kind of forms into its, like we try to keep in I know that's a lie. We don't try to keep anything in. We just kind of play, and we mess around with it, and it goes wherever it goes.
Do you find yourself, like, say, in a studio setting per se, when recording? Do you think, like a live recording organically, do you find better results as opposed to overdubs and that kind of stuff?
I love playing straight ahead live. I totally understand the advantages of laying stuff down individually. I understand the finances. I get every bit of that.
Right.
But I'm old, and I think that also kind of makes the music sterile in its own way.
I think it kind of takes. Yeah, I agree. I think, like I said, I recently turned 40, and I think I'm gonna treat myself to a rocking chair so I can shake my fist.
Oh, please, whatever.
Dude, you're a baby.
You still crawling and wearing diapers. Stop. So Rodney, I would think that because of, like you said, straight ahead, right? Because they have all those complicated rhythms that you got to play, and it's like just so cool and it sounds beautiful. I think that's probably why, right? Is that the reason?
Yeah, that's pretty much who I am. Yes.
Well, and then and don't get me wrong, I like the sound of, say, like Roland V drums and things like that. Because you can simulate different kits, and you have an electronic kit in your place too. It's the Yamaha version, more or less. But your kit, your acoustic kit that you would always have live was it with the butterscotch type finish on it kind of more or less, or what was the? Okay,
Natural Wood Grain. Yeah.
Oh man, I love that kid, and I think I think the sound of that kid and how you played it, of course, just you created these perfect pocket, like measure by measure, and I think that brought out a lot of the bass lines that came out of me,
Well, thank you.
based on your foundation. Well, of course, as opposed to, I've played with cats, and I'm sure you've played with cats, like, depending on the song, you're not going to play like a basic 4/4 trying to shred and play lead drums or lead bass, and you're trying to lock in with them, or say, like, hey, no, try and do this instead, between, like, the lead guitar player and the vocalist or something, and they just refuse to do it, and but no, like, that's why I find you, like, the most ideal and, like, your archetype of a percussionist. You stay in the pocket, you stay in the groove, but then at the same time, you can do something like Keith Moon-esque or like Neil Peart or Sheila E. or like a lead percussion roll, and then draw back and then go back into the pocket. And that's, I think, what makes you a very ideal and like, I can't think of a more perfect percussionist description to work with than, someone like Rod Joos. I mean, that's...
Oh, you're too kind. You are too kind. Well, I'll tell you, like, what really changed my thought process, or what's really helped me a lot, is the two things, a Miles Davis quote, and I won't do my bad impersonation of him, but where somebody asked him one time, what's the difference between a great musician and a good musician? And he said that's really simple. Great musicians are comfortable with space. And so I worked really hard to be okay with space. And
that's true. Because they say the most important part of the music is the silence in between it. So like taking the break and the pause does make a difference, because if the ears is just constantly hearing the banging, banging, banging. That's what I liked about my drummer. He died, but he was like the best drummer. Richie Johnson, he he just kept it in the pocket. He's not overplaying, he's not soloing through the whole song. He's just like laid back and just right where it needs to be.
Yeah, and I think so much for any musician is about having big ears, and just instead of focusing on what you're doing, is listening to what everybody else is doing.
Right.
And just it's a conversation.
But I think a lot of times that the listening is not what happens in music. Like, a lot of people just don't listen; they just hear themselves. It's like, okay,
No. And Rob can relate too to certain bands. Like, you're playing with sometimes 9 people simultaneously on stage at once, and how difficult of a conversation is that to have with everybody simultaneously, musically? Like, when it starts with the rhythm section, having like 3 keyboards on there, maybe a horn section and or 2, and a bunch of guitars and and stuff.
It can work. It can definitely work.
Everybody's listening,
right?
And it works. That is great. It's just that when it's like God, I quote other musicians so much, but Elvin Jones, the great jazz drummer. One of my favorite quotes was, he said, the worst thing you can do on stage is have an I thought. If you're thinking about yourself, you're going to screw up. You've got to be focused on the music and what everybody else is doing. And it doesn't matter if it's positive or negative. You can't be focused on you. You've got to be focused. It's like being in a relationship. You got to focus on what everybody else is doing.
Or on a team, the name on the front of the jersey is more important than the name on the back.
Exactly.
It's so relatable. Very much so.
Definitely.
Yeah. Have you ever performed like any, like, say, like in prog rock type bands or anything like that, where you had an opportunity to play lead drum, so to speak, throughout the majority of the songs, and you've enjoyed it, or?
Not a whole lot. I have some situations. What happens to me now is, like, Steve Dudley, wonderful guitar player, and I love jamming with him, and he'll say to me, Rod, I play so well with you, but I wish you would play more. Just play more. And it's like, I'm who I am. And I love that stuff, and it's just, not real. I mean, I can go into the odd time signatures with no problem and stuff, but as far as going into the flash thing, it's just, I mean, I can do it, but it's, who wants to hear it because my heart's not in it.
Right.
To be honest.
Yeah, I guess you have to be, again, that comes with the painting thing, dart portion, the paintbrush, if it comes out, your output's not going to be your true feelings. Right. You know, your energy, you approach the dynamics. Even though
Well, the whole thing is that you're supposed to, you as an artist is a conduit getting the message from the spirit, and you're supposed to get out the way of it to just let it flow.
Right. But I can overplay like crazy if I want to. I can get a guitar player to give me a look. I got no problem with that.
I don't know. There's some good memes out there. There's a Stanley Clark one. It says it had like a guitar player, like he's like the guitar player just kind of quit like playing. He's like putting his hand over his mouth, kind of giving a dirty look. Just the look when the bass player started playing fifth chords, and Stanley Clark looked at him like, please, whatever. That's one of my favorites. Yeah, or you know, with I was telling Stephanie recently about Jaco Pastorius and stuff.
Oh, I love Jaco.
Oh, I know. Like,
you know, he's my favorite. Yeah,
I do, and I was telling her a while back about the book, the biography you have on him. You know, how he's like the quote self-proclaimed best bass player that ever lived. And, you know, and he only had that one bass. And what was that R&B group he played with?
He played with. This is okay. So I'll get on my little soapbox. This is where guys miss the boat a lot of times, and they kind of did the same thing with John Bonham. Okay, is where you hear they miss out on what those influences were. Right. So Jaco can do the whole. He can go all over the bass guitar. Right. Well, he got his start. He cut his teeth playing R&B, and he did it on the cello circuit with Wayne Cochran and the CC Riders. Which Paul Schaefer, in his autobiography, talks about seeing that band in a club. Mm-hmm. In his book, We'll Be Here the Rest of Our Lives, which is a great book as well. But Jaco, underneath, with all the fanciness and all the flash, he knew there was always a groove. You always wanted to make them move their bottoms, no matter, even if you're playing in 7/8, that doesn't matter. What matters is you're moving them physically. And there's a great story where when Peter Erskine first joined Weather Report, and Peter is a great drummer, and but he came up strictly playing jazz and big band and swing and bebop, but he knew the jazz world. And they've done their sound check, and Jaco's putting sawdust on the stage in his area. Right. And Peter's looking over him like, "What are you doing, dude?" And he's like, and he goes, Jaco just kind of gave him that smile, that Jaco smile, and said, "You'll see." And he stays that night. Jaco's barefoot, and he is dancing and sliding all over that stage, and the audience is eating up every bit of it. And that's what it's all about. You got to you can touch their minds, but the best music touches the mind, the heart, and the soul, and the bottom.
That's right. It makes you want to dance. And I would love it if we could dance to your song, Champagne Girl. So tell us about that song.
Champagne Girl, that's from the club, and Brody, who writes our lyrics, and the music, he is, all of the stuff we do, unless it's a cover, is actually about a real person. And Champagne Girl is a beautiful, lovely woman who, when she goes to weddings or fancy affairs, likes to drink the champagne, and when they're carrying it around, she will drink way too much of it and pass out. It is totally a true story, and she's totally cool with the story being about her. Everybody in the club has met her. Her and her husband are great people. But Champagne Girl really exists, and she is worthy of the legend. Oh, my God.
Well, we want to hear that song, so let's tune our ears to Champagne Girl, and we'll be right back.
It's this nice, oh, it's so smooth, oh. intellect, a bright smile, elegance with her own unique style. Her perfume and self-confidence are making heads turn. And she keeps a low profile, but she got dance moves like you haven't seen in a long while. This is a strong woman, but she's known as Champagne Girl. Hit! And she's not nonchalant when she flaunts what she's got, and she's got a plan and nobody gonna stand in the way. You got what she wants, and it's not what you thought, and she's not gonna quit until she gets all of the champagne. Champagne, hey, hey, champagne girl. Girl, I've been watching, I can see what you're trying to do. Champagne, hey, hey, champagne girl. Champagne girl, I got my eye on you. Sensuous, she strolls by. She's getting loose in the hen house, and this fox is sly. With her every step, rumors start to swirl. It's a good swirl. And she'll look you right in the eyes and steal your drink and not even think to apologize. She's on the prowl, watch out now, for Champagne Girl. She's focused, she's on task. There's something in the way that she moves, and she moves fast. Mission complete, she's on top of the world. She might crash, but she can't pass this opportunity to snatch every glass that she travels past. Everybody loves Champagne Girl. Yeah, yeah. The sealed fake, she won't wait, she doesn't ask, she just takes. Taking this too far, and now the end is near. Feels great, but it's getting late. She never ate, can't walk straight. Checkmate. This game is over. There are no winners here. Champagne, hey, champagne girl. Girl, I don't watch it, I can see what you're trying to do. Champagne, hey, champagne girl. Champagne girl, I got my eye on you. It's a bridge. It's a bridge to say hey to me, yeah. You could have played him too, but instead you chose to play this game. Could have quit while you were ahead, but you were like a moth to a flame. Let the bubbles go straight to your head, and you got nobody else to blame. Now Uncle Funky gotta put you to bed. You got the grandma calling out your name. What was their name again? What was their name? She said. Come on, Daryl Jane. Come on, say that name. Champagne, champagne girl. But I've been watching, I can see what you're trying to do. Champagne, champagne girl.
English Connection Media.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of the Indie Music Show, which airs each and every Tuesday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time on the English Connection Media with your hosts, Stephanie Jeannot and
Johnny J.
So we were talking about Champagne Girl, and I want to tell you, like, I used to be the Lush. They used to call me Lush because you know what it is, like when you're singing, when you get on the stage and singing, everybody's like, you take a break. You want a drink? Here's a drink. So like now you're drinking all these drinks, and a lot of times it's like, yeah, you're left drunk or tipsy. It's like, but then I knew that I couldn't handle it because I'm always driving by myself. So I was like, let me just stop doing it because there's no point in me creating a dangerous situation for myself.
Yeah, and you never sound as good as you think you do when you've been drinking.
No, but you know what? When you're on the stage with a band member who is drunk and they're acting crazy, then it makes you so frustrated, Oh
yeah.
I knew this guy. We were in Russia, and we did we did the Philharmonic together. And before he got on the stage, he drank a whole bottle of vodka, and I was just like, "How you get on the stage all drunk?"
Wow.
But the next city, he was so drunk that he couldn't get on the stage. So he had to pay back the band pay back the club for all the promotions, all the tickets they sold and everything.
Oh my God. Youch. Jeez. That's crazy. Well, this past tour I have, and Rod, you know the importance of being able to, obviously, I mean, it goes with your job description of keeping time and stuff. There's this one drummer, and we went through a couple of different drummers. The last one he's pretty good. He looks like he's a younger kid. He's like in his early 20s. Kind of looks like Jonah Hill. So I nicknamed I nicknamed him Jonah. You know, the actor. So like it's kind of funny because I'm like, hey Jonah, and he kind of like already had the conditions. Not a kid, damn it, because he's already replying to me as Jonah, but. So the drummer before him, unfortunately, and unfortunately more so, not too many of the audience know so much about music, in deep, but the drummer, I mean, it was a power trio, like a blues situation, and the drummer he was told so many times throughout that tour. I mean, no drinking before the show. After the show, fine. It's I always hear like if you're a surgeon, you're not going to drink before you do surgery. Hopefully, or a school bus driver. Unless you're auto, might be doing other substances. But the thing was, I mean, it affected his timing and everything.
I think it'll affect everything, even like remembering the sequence of, melodic sequences of what's supposed to go here and there, and it just messes up things.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. And then as the drummer, you're the foundation for the rhythm section is, but primarily most of it's on the drummer, holding that whole heavy house up on top of the foundation. So. But this guy, I mean, there's a few occasions, but this was the straw that broke the camel's back. I mean, it's like, for one second, I'm like, man, are all three of us playing a different song? And I'm like, what the hell's going on here? So then, on the intermission, I went and asked him, like, how's everything sound? Like, sounds good. I'm like, so I'm like, all right, listen, just this, because I think the drummer is this, and it might be off, and like, yeah, I can see what you're saying, and then, anyway, so after the show, the guitar player saying I got bad, and he's like, all right, outside, and he threatened the drummer, saying, I don't care if we're 2,000 miles away from home, you were going to leave it here, and I'm going to get a first call session drummer, and that's that, and, I mean, like, wow, that's a little beyond, harsh, and then, like, a week later, that drummer quit, and he resigned, and, but, I mean, he admitted, I mean, I think he did have that problem, but it's a shame that, I mean, our friend Gary, I mean, Oh, God bless.
It can be a problem for people, you know. So, and I got to be honest, I did it one time. I'll embarrass myself. So I got a gig playing for a Christmas party. A really nice club, and Christmas parties never start on time. Well, right before I left, this was my first wife, let me know that the marriage was over.
Oh no!
And so we get there, kind of hanging out, and then it's a bank, so they got all this money, and the guy's like, "Hey, you guys going down to the bar? It's on us."
Oh no!
So I had way too much time at the bar. I'm not quite sure how the gig went. They didn't fire me, but I was using the wall to hold myself up. It was one of those, you learn, you go, that wasn't a good idea. I shouldn't have that.
Well, it would have been more fitting if they played like George Thorogood plays the Christmas Blues or something. I don't know. Oh man, but anyway, sorry. Yeah, that's
but I mean, you learn. That's part of life. Sometimes you gotta go out there and just really scrub and go, oh, okay, that's not how you do it.
Right. That's kind of part of the ethics lessons of us as working musicians and stuff, of what and what not to do before a gig, during a gig, and after a gig.
Yeah,
that's right.
All of us have to learn the hard way.
Yeah,
that's true.
So Rodney, you had a lot of gigs in your lifetime, and in your mental inventory, what was your favorite place to play?
Oh, I have two favorite memories of playing.
Yes.
I have two, and the one my son he's an adult with a disability, but he went to a special ed school. And he's autistic and a very small class, but for his graduation, I played bass drum and snare drum with brushes, and my friend Mark Yarbrough played guitar, and Tracy, Aaron's stepmom, sang We Did Forever Young.
Okay.
It was no big deal, but it was just, it's one of those moments where you go, oh, this is, it was just touched my heart. It was simple.
Totally, yes.
But it was a beautiful thing. And then my other is, it was a bizarre experience, but it was so cool. Down in New Orleans, and the Humphrey Davis Band, down there, he was the musical director for the Neville Brothers. But down there, you play for $1,000 a night, but during the day, you're playing the little bars for tips.
Right.
So it's this little 4-piece band, Humphrey on saxophone, and this older gentleman, he had to have been in his 80s playing keyboards, and a young rhythm section.
Okay.
They go, and the drummer happened to be named Rodney. They go on break, and we get to talking, and they were wonderful. And he's like, hey, why don't you sit in? Because, you're a tourist, and we want you to buy the CD. So I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's a business, and it's cool. So we're doing Mustang Sally, and they would do not jazz versions, like it was swing, but they would do extended solos and stuff.
Okay.
And we do Mustang Sally, and I remember the bass player's not happy that this old white guy's sitting there on the drums, so he's messing with my head for about the first 8 measures. And when I kept the one in the same spot, he was happy, then he smiled at me. So it was really a nice compliment. We had done the song, and I'm doing the polite thing. I'm going to get off stage. And Humphrey motions for me to sit back down. And we start playing Dock to the Bay. And we come to a part where the keyboard player takes a solo. And this man his playing was so beautiful. I mean, I'd never heard anything like it. And this never happened to me before or since. I literally thought, oh shit, am I still playing? And had to look at my hands and feet to make sure I was still playing the drums. And luckily I was. But I was just like, that guy should be making enough money to own, Britney Spears' home or something.
Wow, okay.
But that was just an incredible experience to be with somebody playing that well. And then, countless times of, playing and the audience is getting into it and that kind of stuff. But those are the two just really memorable things for me.
Oh, wow, okay.
That's something. I mean, sometimes it's not even the, quote, venue itself. It's who's on stage that makes the venue.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this was a little dive. I mean, it was not a nice bar in New Orleans. It was a dive. Right. But it was so cool. It was just, and we locked it. It was grooving. The doorman even told me I did a good job, and actually I think met it. But it was just so cool. But to jam with somebody that could take the music to that level was just breathtaking. I'm
That's
sure.
Awesome. Man. Yeah. I love it when you play with great musicians, and it just makes you want to play well. Like you don't want to make them look at you like, why is she on the stage with me? You want to make sure that they're right.
You don't want to be the best one in the band, because that way you're always learning. If they're a little bit better than you, go, oh, okay, take this up a notch.
I'm looking forward to this Wednesday. Actually, it's going to be the New Rochelle Jazz Festival. They have it every year, but this year, unfortunately, it's going to be virtual, so it won't be like in front of the crowd that I'm used to. But if you interested, you can watch it on Facebook. It'll be live this Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. Facebook.com/New Rochelle Jazz Festival.
Very cool.
And John, I know you had a gig recently, right? How did that go?
It went pretty well, it was more of a condensed situation and that kind of thing.
Well, everything is condensed now, right?
Right, it is, but it's just, it doesn't feel like, it doesn't feel like everything's back to normal still. I don't feel that full, the full live sensation,
Well, you're not going to feel it because, you know what, you're used to, like, a big crowd, right? Or like, just the energy of the room. The energy is not going to be there with masks on, number one. That's just, listen, I had this mask on and I was going up the steps in the building. I thought I was going to pass out because I'm like, I can't breathe with this thing on my face. Like, can you imagine? I can't imagine how you feel, Rodney, playing the drums if you have to wear a mask.
It's been a learning, because I haven't played, the only place I've been playing as far as since all this went on, I've got my first outside gig coming up Sunday afternoon. But I've been playing in my church praise band, and it's a little weird getting used to my glasses fogging up while I'm trying to play the drums. But we're getting there.
But isn't it like, because I know you sweat a lot when you're on the drums, so like it doesn't cause like restrictions on breathing, I guess, right?
When I start to feel sorry for myself about it, I just kind of think, okay, there's people that wear this stuff and more when they're doing surgery.
That's right.
I saw Jelly Bean Johnson, from Morris Day and the Time, and they wear the Stacey Adams suits and stuff.
Sure.
And Morris had his fur coat even on. This is under the arch, in St. Louis in July for it's like 103 plus humidity. It's like
okay, but that's different than something covering your nose and your mouth. Like that's not gonna.
I guess you're right.
Yeah, that's not gonna cause you like to not be able to breathe. You know what I'm saying? Like just like they said.
It might give you that focus, like regardless what's on your body. That adrenaline of playing the instrument or what needs to be done. I mean, I can see how that can erase things. I wonder though, Rod, what do you think, in Peoria and all over Central Illinois? I know there's some places that have opened, some places I follow on Instagram, some of the venues there and stuff. Are they doing, are they extended, as far as trios by now? Or, what's the furthest you think they go with a full stage?
There's a few places, the places that have outdoor entertainment, like the Oliver's and that, we're going to be playing down in Havana Sunday, they have an outside stage.
If listeners want to catch it, where would they find it at?
We will be at the Stag Tap in Havana,
Okay.
Illinois, and it's from 3 to 6, so it's a Sunday fun day.
Okay. And if listeners are interested in finding out more about you, I know we were talking about social media, so tell them your social media links maybe.
All I've got right now is Facebook. Rodney Joos on Facebook.
Okay.
Joos. JOOS.
Gotcha.
Wes McQueen has a page as well.
Wes McQueen?
West McQueen Street.
The West McQueen Street Band, and they're based out of Peoria, Illinois. And I thought Snake...
Rivertown, yes, you're right. Rivertown. Well, we're not Snake Oil Salesman anymore.
Right.
But Rivertown does have a Facebook page as well, too.
So I want to thank you for being on today's show.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you for taking us to a different galactic dimension. And we want to thank all of you listeners for tuning in to today's episode. I hope you enjoyed what you heard. And we hope that you join us next week for another episode of the Indie Music Show.